Su Lin is the author of Qidian. I never expected that online novels would come true. My landlord is actually a big star, and she is also the female lead in my novels, entertainment, daily style, sweet and gentle, not cruel. Keywords of the novel. My landlord is actually a big star without pop-ups. My landlord is actually a big star. Download the full text of the text, and my landlord is actually a big star. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. I am a Korean entertainment writer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. I am a Korean entertainment writer. Preface. What you love is your life. Story, start, on August 20th, 2013, at exactly 3 p.m. As the plane landed, Su Lin finally arrived at his destination, glanced at the time on his phone, and there was still time to find the professor when he returned to school. He picked up his luggage on the airport wheel and walked out of the airport carrying a computer bag. He got into a taxi and said to the driver, "Master, please go to Dongwa University." "Thank you." Good. The scorching sun is scorching, and there is still balance left during the summer vacation. For someone like him who carries a computer bag with him, not eating watermelon and using air conditioning at home must have other purposes to return to school early. Speaking of which, it's quite helpless. There aren't enough dormitories in the school. As a new student, he was forced to leave his dormitory as a senior in September. I want to move out and rent a house. He is not voluntary, mainly because the place here is too small, unlike domestic universities with conditions, and the number of students has been high in recent years. As for why I agree, it's actually quite simple. The dormitories at Dongwa University are reserved for students in need, and Su Lin doesn't insist on living in the dormitories. He has the conditions to rent a house outside. In other words, although he is a foreigner, he has a certain ability to earn money while learning knowledge in school. It's not easy to make money these days, but unfortunately, Su Lin found the path of writing novels during his college years. I am still writing the popular genre of novels on the internet in recent years. Hanyu. It has been 3 months since the beginning, and unlike the typical Korean entertainment bulldozer genre, his books are more niche. Pure love, single female lead. Who would be more interested in watching a single female lead in Korean entertainment? If there's anything exciting, let's not mention it. The love story is a bloody mess, it's hard to catch the eye, and many readers just run away after reading the first few chapters. The bulldozer text needs to look better, but Su Lin has also gained some book friends, each of whom is a pure love warrior. Suddenly, Su Lin's phone in his pocket shook twice. After getting off the plane, he hadn't read the book group yet. He took out his phone and glanced at the chat records in the book group. Not yet. How many days did we take off? 3 days, but I always feel like he needs to cut books. There aren't many single female lead articles now, so the author shouldn't cut them too much. Where is the author's home address? There's no other meaning. I'll send you some local specialties to repair your body. You can't even write the code. We should put this B in a small black room and code it. Pulling the corners of his mouth, Su Lin casually turned off his phone. It wasn't the first time he had been urged to change, and he wasn't afraid at all. Besides, it's not that he hasn't sent a notification yet. He has to go abroad to handle his dormitory affairs and doesn't have time to code. Save manuscript. He has never had that thing before. Write and send now. The main focus is to keep up with current events. Moreover, the starting point has a leave request mechanism, which means that the author needs to take a leave of absence in case of unexpected events. The taxi quickly arrived at the entrance of Dongwa University. Su Lin took out his wallet and paid the fare with pre-exchanged Korean won. After getting off the car, he carried his beloved computer on his back and walked towards the direction of the teaching building. Because the university professor was very kind to Su Lin, he agreed to help him find a house, and now there is also news from there. The school hasn't started yet, and there are hardly any students moving around in such a large school. However, he has made an appointment with Professor Jian to meet in the office, so he is not worried. Entering the teaching building, Su Lin headed straight to the second floor and walked to the door of Professor Jin's office with ease. He raised his hand and knocked on the door. Knock and knock. Please come in. A crisp female voice came from inside. Pushing open the door and walking in, Su Lin saw a middle-aged woman sitting at his desk, looking at him with black-framed glasses. My eyes are full of appreciation. He politely bowed and straightened his waist before saying, Professor Jian, could you please help me find a house? It's nothing, I happen to know someone who wants to rent out a house. Su, you're welcome. Looking at the students who listened attentively in class, Professor Jin's eyes were filled with satisfaction. It's not easy to meet a hardworking and talented student these days, even if the other person is a foreigner, she is quite satisfied. Su Lin didn't think much either. After walking over, he stood respectfully at Professor Jin's desk, with a slightly tired expression on his face from flying. Upon seeing this, Professor Jian took out a piece of paper from the middle of his desk and handed it to Su Lin while saying, This is the landlord's contact information. You can contact her another day. If you are not satisfied with the price, come to me again. Okay, thank you Professor Jian. Su Lin took the note and stuffed it into the back of the phone case. Just as he was about to thank him and leave, he heard Professor Jian say it again. In September, Zhongwu Road will come to our place for a lecture. Are you interested? Zhongwu Road. Su Lin instinctively repeated it before nodding suddenly. Of course you're interested, Professor Jian. Can I go? Of course, each professor can bring a few students. If you want to go, please send me your personal information. Using email. Su Lin asked. Kakao Talk, do you have it? No, but I can register. Just kidding, he still needs to register without it, mainly to attend this lecture. He is still in college and although he has income now, it is not stable enough. In the future, he will definitely switch to writing or editing jobs. Writing Korean entertainment novels is not enough for him to eat, it can only be regarded as a hobby. He has been studying in South Korea for over a year now, so naturally he will face the problem of finding a job after graduation. Speaking of which, writing novels can it also be considered an alternative work experience. After registering for Kakao Talk in front of Professor Jian and adding his contact information, Su Lin left the office and prepared to go back to the dormitory to pack his luggage. Since he wants to move out, he also needs to say goodbye to his dormitory friends, even if he sends a text message. Passing through the path of Donghua University and passing by the basketball court, Su Lin arrived at the front of the dormitory building and headed straight for his own dormitory. Stepping down the stairs to the 6th floor, Su Lin opened the door of the 602 dormitory with a key. He walked in and sat down at the desk under his own bed, opened his backpack, and took out his computer. This is something he eats for, there shouldn't be any accidents, mainly there is a 1,000-word document on it. If it's gone, he's afraid he'll collapse. Turn on the computer, Su Lin is not in a hurry to code. It's still early, and the most important thing now is to contact the landlord and determine the location, which is the key. Take out the note with the phone number written on it, he presses the number according to the phone number, and then dials the phone. Doodle doodle do silent, mechanical sounds emanated. The landlord didn't answer his phone, probably busy. Su Lin was not in a hurry either. He opened the text message interface and edited a paragraph to send to the landlord. He should reply when he saw it. Hello, I am a student of Professor Jian from Donghua University. I heard from Professor Jian that you have a vacant house for rent, so I would like to ask when you have time to talk about renting a house. With a whoosh, it sent out. Now Su Lin is at ease. Just wait for the other party's reply now. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. First Encounter. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 2. First encounter. Writing novels requires inspiration. Currently, Su Lin is not in the mood to write, so he has decided to tidy up his bed first. Renting a house also takes time, and during this time, he will have to live in the dormitory. It's not yet early September, and the new students haven't come to the school to report. His actions are understandable and not a violation of regulations. Put all the clothes in the wardrobe, go to the bathroom and get a wet towel to wipe the tabletop clean. After it dries, place the laptop, tablet, mechanical keyboard, and wireless mouse on the tabletop. After finishing everything, Su Lin sat down at his desk in the dormitory, took a deep breath, opened the coding page of the writer's assistant, and began caressing the keyboard keys with his slender fingers. It's time to code. Don't code again. Book friends may really send Su Lin some local specialties. From 4:30 p.m. until after 9 p.m., Su Lin took a few deep breaths as he typed the final period. 4,058 words, get it done. This month's full attendance is just right, with a guaranteed minimum of 4,000 words. Su Lin is considered one of the more diligent authors, but of course, we need to rule out those who have strange tentacles, as those are the real big shots. He is beyond reach of the dust. However, compared to those authors who can code a day with one computer, one pack of cigarettes, and 2,000 words, Su Lin is much more diligent than them. Setting aside frequent absences, his updated word count is quite stable. No more, no less, just enough to be fully diligent. As for his short book friend in the comments section, I don't believe it. Su Lin knows better than anyone that these book friends just can't sleep at night because he is very good at breaking chapters. Short. A batch of labor managers. After setting the update time for tomorrow, Su Lin stretched lazily, closed his notebook, and moved his wrist. He then took out his phone to check the time and happened to see a reply from the landlord. Perhaps, do you have time tomorrow? Because I am very busy with work, I happen to be going to Donghua University tomorrow. Do you think it's okay? The other party's response was very polite. Su Lin thought for a moment, and besides coding, he just went to the basketball court to play. Of course, he has time tomorrow. Of course, just let me know when you arrive tomorrow. He has not only time, but also too idle. After replying to the message, Su Lin's stomach began to growl. He got up and changed into sportswear. He didn't plan to eat and was ready to play basketball. It's not because of anything else. He has recently gained a lot of meat, maybe because he ate too much delicious food back in China and didn't pay attention. His height is 184, and he currently weighs about 150 pounds. He has grown 5 or 6 pounds since returning to his home country, and his abdominal muscles are all gone. After a brief tidying up, Su Lin walked downstairs. Because school hasn't started yet, there's no one on the court, but it's okay. Su Lin stands in front of the basketball rack on the left side of the basketball court with the ball. Suddenly, he started dribbling between his legs and then jumped up to shoot. Well, I didn't hit. Don't blame him, it's a matter of luck. Su Lin ran over to pick up the ball and then took another shot. He played until 11 o'clock before returning to the dormitory to take a shower and sleep. The sky was hazy, and in the dormitory, Su Lin opened his eyes and immediately opened the writer's assistant, glancing at yesterday's subscription. 863 new subscriptions. Not bad, there was no update yesterday and it was just enough money. Then, he opened the comment interface, deleted the comments that said he had forced the female leader to lower her intelligence, and roast. I really don't understand. If I don't like it, why do I have to leave a message? Can't I just leave? Do you insist on breaking my defense? He wrote a Korean entertainment novel, and she is also a single female lead. Can a normal person casually meet a celebrity on the street? What should we do if we don't lower our intelligence? It's good if it's sweet enough. Turning off the screen and putting down his phone, Su Lin stretched lazily in bed, shook his head, lay back in bed, picked up his phone, clicked on the starting point, and then subscribed to the chapter that had just been posted this morning. He doesn't want to do this either, but in order to check for typos and where the sentences are not smooth, he must do so. The light from the mobile phone lit up his handsome face. Looking at what he wrote yesterday, Su Lin's blush turned red. Single female lead, shouldn't there be any problem driving a car? However, the writing was too detailed, which made Su Lin feel a bit embarrassed. When he saw the comments left by his book friends, he couldn't help but grin, truly his book friend. Surprisingly, he was called Liu Bei in this book, and some people said he had a side job, but that's not wrong. His side job is just a student. Hee hee. Looking at the content of the article, Su Linwo grinned foolishly on the bedboard. Sweet is really sweet, and Huang and Liu Bei are also real Liu Bei. Vulgar. Too vulgar. This is Su Lin's speech after reading it, but this emotion didn't last long. He got up and went to the bathroom to wash up. As a student, the most important thing is still learning. As a Korean entertainment author, his future job may be as an editor or writer. Su Lin, who had finished washing up, came out of the toilet and came to his desk, took out 2 tissues and wiped his mouth. Of course, it's because there was toothpaste foam when brushing my teeth just now. Then he sat at his desk, turned on his computer, watched a video of Bilibili for a while, and learned how to apply software. Then we started coding at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Su Lin came out of the dormitory building, dressed in Instagram-style wide short sleeves and black shorts, and walked towards the east gate of Donghua University with slippers. The landlord sent a text message saying they wanted to meet and chat there. Passing through the park road and the small forest, Su Lin didn't think much and observed at the east gate of the school, but didn't find anyone. Did you get pigeoned? Or do you know he is a foreigner and unwilling to rent? With these thoughts in mind, Su Lin stood under the tree at the east entrance and walked towards a girl wearing large blue short sleeves, white flat shoes, and 2 fair long legs exposed in the air. Good legs. Su Lin suddenly fell in love with summer. Because the other person was wearing a hat and mask, Su Lin couldn't see his appearance, but his intuition told him. This girl must be a beautiful woman, and she has a great figure, damn it. It's another day of envy for South Korean tycoons. If only I had a Korean girlfriend. Su Lin suddenly became puzzled, not because of anything else, but because the slender girl seemed to be walking towards him. He looked left and right, and when he confirmed that there was no one else next to him, his heart tightened. Can you say that your landlord is this girl? Are you so lucky? Thanks to Professor Jean, he also found a beautiful landlord for himself, which suddenly reminded him of a book he had read before, Aniasio. Just as Su Lin was lost in thought, the girl approaching greeted him and said, "Perhaps, are you Su's classmate? I am the landlord who asked Professor Jean to help me rent out a house." Watching the girl approaching, Su Lin blushed and quickly averted his gaze, bowing in response. Aniasio, I'm Su Lin. During the greeting, the girl approached. For some reason, Su Lin felt that the girl in front of him was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't recognize her. The weather is too hot, let's have a brief chat here instead of going to the coffee shop for a detailed discussion. How about that? Oh, inside. Su Lin hurriedly replied. Maybe the girl had a smell of perfume. He was a little afraid to look at her directly. Foreigners? The girl suddenly asked. Inside. Su Lin shifted his gaze to the nearby lawn and asked calmly, how did landlord Nim know? Because it's not honorific, the girl chuckled lightly. Do you still rent your house? Rent it. Suddenly, the girl thought for a moment and said, I should be your senior sister. Just call me senior sister. Do you have any bad habits in your daily life, or do you have pets? Well, I don't have bad habits, I don't smoke or drink, I don't raise small animals, and I just study and write. Writing. Is Su still a writer? Speaking of this, the girl clearly became interested. As a writer, I will continue to work hard in the future. Now I am just writing articles for netizens to read, Su Lin said casually. Perhaps to prove that he can afford to rent a house, Su Lin did not deny his identity as a writer, but he also did not tell the truth. After all, this type of novel is not very convenient to tell others. Because the weather in August is very hot and this person is a student introduced by Professor Jean, the girl doesn't intend to talk nonsense and says. If I rent a house to you, there are several conditions. Firstly, you cannot let your friends go to the house to drink and have a party because I don't like too many people knowing this address. Secondly, you need to clean it regularly, even if you have dirty and messy habits. If there is no problem, you can get a deposit of 30 million yuan and 500,000 yuan per month. Do you think this is acceptable, Su? Sure, that's possible. Su Lin nodded. In places like South Korea where every inch of land is precious, rent at this price is not too expensive. Okay, I'll draft a contract for you in a few days. Can you go to Professor Jin's place to sign the contract then? Sure, please draft it as soon as possible because I didn't get a spot to settle in the dormitory this time, and it won't be enough time for the new students to start school. Have a pleasant cooperation, Su Linshi. The girl reached out her hand, and Su Lin turned his head when he saw it in his spare light. He happened to bump into the girl's gaze, as well as her bright deer eyes. The gentle breeze blew, and the scorching summer breeze blew the girl's hair. Su Lin was stunned. He knows this girl and is very familiar with her. She is the female lead of his Korean entertainment novel. Lin Yuner. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. My 25-year-old landlady. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. My 25-year-old landlady. Is reality really so bloody? Farewell to the landlord who rented him a house. Su Lin walked back to his dormitory with great emotion in his heart. Although the other party did not explicitly state their identity, how could Su Lin, who is writing a novel based on Lin Yuner's prototype, not recognize her? He has to search for her information several times on Baidu every day. And those eyes are also too easy to recognize. Looking at the entire South Korea, it seems that only her eyes are very spiritual. If it weren't for his firm willpower. Maybe the name has already been called out. But it should be said or not, he thinks he really has vision. The female protagonist chosen in the novel seems to be more beautiful in reality. He with a myriad of mixed thoughts, Su Lin took out his phone and hesitated whether to share today's experience with his book friends. After much contemplation, he decided not to say it for now, and even if he did, no one would believe it. Book enthusiasts would definitely think that he has suffered from hysteria again, who would believe that reality is truly more despicable than fiction. Maybe there will be logical monsters criticizing him. This is not acceptable. Putting away his phone, Su Lin returned to the dormitory and sat in front of and behind his desk, turning on his computer. However, he couldn't write a single word. Just kidding, can he remain calm when faced with such a situation? So he clicked on a friend's chat box, frowned in confusion, quickly typed a line of text, and sent it out. I met Lin Yuner at Dongwa University, do you believe me? Just as I sent it over, the chat box showed that I was typing. Following that, coincidentally, I have also encountered it. I see it every day in my dreams. Knowing that no one believed him, Su Lin collapsed on the chair, closed his eyes, raised his hand, and rubbed his eyebrows, with a very strange expression on his face. These days, to be honest, no one believes it. This is his first friend in the novel industry, who is also his book friend, but he doesn't believe him either, let alone other book friends. He might even be ridiculed if he sends it out. Writing a novel, writing a mystery. Suffering from delusions. Grass. Thinking about it, Su Lin took a deep breath, logged on to QQ, opened his book friend group, and stroked the keyboard with both hands. I don't have any inspiration today, maybe it won't be even better tomorrow. Quickly, book enthusiasts rushed out of the group, withholding 6 and asking him to report his position, but Su Lin did not reply. Just now he was impacted, and now his thoughts are very chaotic. Not to mention writing novels, it would be great if he could live on a different planet. The house introduced by Professor Jean is really difficult for him to refuse, let alone the reasonable price offered by Lin Yuner. After the start of school, it is very likely that Su Lin will not be able to rent a house when those couples arrive at school. Don't think this kind of thing is impossible to happen. There is no need to say much about the ingredients in the Han River, and college students are in a period of hormonal outbursts. Just thinking about it makes my face blush and my heart beat. Climbing onto the bed and lying down, Su Lin looked at the ceiling and suddenly remembered the content of the novel. He blushed instantly, and a sense of shame surged in his heart. He wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl in. Grass. Suddenly covering his head with Xiao Yang, he rolled on the bedboard like a cricket twice. How could he be so unlucky? Can you still rent a house to the main owner? Thinking of myself giving money to Lin Yuner every month and her earlier statement that she would go back to the house to check hygiene if she had time numb. Su Lin's people are all numb. He wants to be quiet at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Su Lin still didn't recover and lay on the bed like a dead fish, with empty and lifeless eyes. At this moment, the phone suddenly shook, and he tilted his head to look at it. After seeing the name on the note, Su Lin quickly answered the phone. Hello. Erzma. Did you rent a house on Muyo? When you rent a house, be careful not to point at our compatriots. People's hearts are very bad, you know. Don't trust others too easily, do you? The unique Hebei dialect came from the phone, and the voice was spoken by Su Lin's father, Su Jinxin. While listening to the sound of talking and chatting, Su Lin guessed that her parents had returned to their hometown. I should be chatting with my neighbors. We just talked about him. His hometown is a small county town around the provincial capital of Heb province, which is said to be quite wealthy, but Su Lin never felt it. My father is from Hebei, and my mother Jin Huishan is from Jilin. If Su Lin returned to China, he would mostly live in the capital. He doesn't have much impression of his hometown. In fact, his family was quite average in the early years, but after his father went to the capital to do business, he became wealthy. A pure businessman, but Su Jinxin did not forget his roots. Instead, he wanted to help his former friends, only to be cheated by them for a lot of money. From then on, he handed over his shares to his confidants for management, no longer managing the company himself, and the chairman went abroad to study. That is to say, only accepting money does not interfere with the company's decisions, which is one of the reasons why Su Lin writes Korean entertainment novels. Rich second generation, not lacking in money. He was taught very well by his parents and couldn't play with those rich second generation who sang and sang all night. Besides these, he was obsessed with the Korean wave, and these days it's all about bulldozer writing. He decided to leave the mud untouched. No single female lead. Then he can write it himself and also improve his writing skills. Maybe he can become a famous screenwriter or something in the future. He has no other shortcomings, but he has not experienced the vicissitudes of society. As a college student, there is always a hint of kindness in his heart. As for why he still needs to be punctual, it can only be said that wealthy people are smarter than imagined, riding bicycles to bars, the province they belong to, and the flowers they spend. Moreover, writing is his only interest. At this moment, listening to his father's voice, Su Lin responded. Dad, I've rented a house now. You can rest assured with my mom. I'm not a child, so I can't count on anything in my heart. Your mother and I are afraid that you are too easily tempted to trust others. On the other end of the phone, Su Lin was about to reason. Seeing this, Su Lin joked, Okay, Dad, you're like being bitten by a snake for 10 years and being afraid of a rope. You child, can your father and I still harm you? Oh my, I got it. My dad is the best. Listening to his son's perfunctory voice, Su Jianxian suddenly felt a bit speechless, but the businessman's reaction was indeed quick. He immediately smiled and said, "If you don't study well after going abroad, you still have money, right? If you don't have money, tell your mother to give you some more money and don't skip meals." "Rich, I haven't spent all the money I gave last time." "Okay, remember to take care of yourself and hang up." Hang up. The phone hung up, and Su Jianxian, who was far away from his home in the county town, grinned as he looked at his neighbors chatting and said extremely sarcastically, "We've grown up since we were young. Oh, studying abroad can bring us success. It seems like we can become a big director or something in the future." Director. Making movies and TV dramas. TSK, not bad, study hard. Listening to the neighbors around him, Su Jianxian's smile grew even stronger, and he was almost riding his pride on his face. If Su Lin heard it, his toes would probably curl up together. "What kind of great director, Dad? If you're bragging, don't bring me with you." Su Lin doesn't know what happened in his hometown. He's all confused now. Professor Jean asked him to go to the office tomorrow to get the contract. If there's no problem, he can sign and move in. How to put it, Su Lin actually really wants to rent that house, but he always feels a bit uncomfortable and doesn't talk about his identity as an artist. Using the prototype of a landlord writing a novel. It's quite bloody, but surprisingly reasonable. Su Lin seems to have heard this story somewhere before. After much thought, he didn't come up with any ideas, so he decided not to think anymore. He covered his eyes and forced his brain to shut down. So much so that I didn't even play basketball. The next day, a nanny car stopped, and Lin Yuner covered her appearance. She got out of the car, waved goodbye to the assistant in the car with her bag, and looked at the car driving towards the parking lot with some emotion. Donghua University is indeed her school, but the number of times she comes to study and attend classes is rare. As she walks towards the teaching building, she scans the surrounding environment. Quickly, Lin Yuner arrived at Professor Jin's office. Professor Jin had not yet arrived, so she needed to wait for a while. Coincidentally, a few minutes later, Su Lin walked in with his ID and received a notice from Professor Jin that the landlord was coming to sign the contract. Professor Jin had something to attend to and asked Su Lin to wait for her in the office. Embarrassed now, the two of them looked at each other with big and small eyes, and then Su Lin awkwardly waved his hand. Landlord Nim came quite early, he 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 he. Laughter is as emotionless as mechanical sound. Lin Yuner still covered up today. When she heard the sound, she quickly stood up and said hello. After the two of them awkwardly sat down, the office fell into silence. The opportunity was not easy to come by, so Su Lin instinctively glanced at the girl beside him with his spare light, confirmed his identity, and asked. "That. May I ask, how old are you?" Born in 1990, according to Korean age, 25 years old this year." "What about Su Linchi?" "I'm 93 years old." "Fong, senior sister." The other party did not reveal their identity, so Su Lin naturally wouldn't poke it open. After all, the identity of an artist is very sensitive, so being careful is okay. Then, Su Lin once again fell into a state of speechlessness. He had already completed all his life's knowledge and could not continue to ask others, "Have you eaten it?" Isn't that even more awkward? Fortunately, Lin Yuner was not so rigid. She blinked her sparkling eyes and asked with a smile. "Isn't my junior student a foreigner? Last time I left in a hurry, I didn't have time to ask my junior student which country you came to study in." "Huaxia," Su Lin responded, "senior sister is." "Very good, very sharp question." His toes have already started to scratch the ground, how could he ask such a brainy question? Lin Yuner was also taken aback and then chuckled lightly. "Seoul people. Su Lin. What is the difference between asking this question and defecating on the street? He wants to die, it's really embarrassing. Originally, Su Lin had contact with an artist, and he wasn't so clumsy. At that time, he was chatting happily with that artist. But Lin Yuner is the female lead in his novels. It's a bit difficult for Su Lin, who feels guilty about doing something wrong, to chat without blushing or jumping. At that time, Professor Jean pushed the door in and greeted the two with a smile. Then, he began to sign the contract. After both of them wrote down their names and took away their documents, they left together. On the way downstairs, Su Lin followed behind Lin Yuner, step by step down the stairs, some deliberately slowing down their pace. Lin Yuner seemed to suddenly think of something, turned around, looked at Su Lin, and suddenly said, "Ah! I suddenly remembered something. When will Su Lin move in? There seems to be some things left at home to tidy up." About 2 or 3 days later, as soon as the words were spoken, Su Lin was taken aback and quickly stopped the following words. He was already distracted, but he didn't expect Lin Yuner to suddenly ask a question. Now it's over, and Lin Yuner was also stunned. She blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at the tall figure above the steps, saying very calmly, "Who is Yuner she? Did Su Lin mistake the person?" End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Next time, definitely next time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Next time, definitely next time. There was silence in the hallway. Until Su Lin blushed, Lin Yuner below the steps spoke again, denying with an undisguised smile. Perhaps Su Lin's junior brother is her fan. But unfortunately, we just look like each other, as many people have said. What does it look like? Is it impossible for the developed cosmetic surgery industry in South Korea to become the same? Su Lin thought this way, but still nodded with a disdainful expression. After looking away, he slowly stepped down the steps. It turns out that's the case. I thought I had rented Miss Lin Yuner's house, and it seemed like I was overjoyed. Are you really her fan? That's not true, Su Lin explained awkwardly as he followed behind her. She can be considered a fan of passers-by, she's quite beautiful. There was silence again, and Lin Yuner didn't want to reveal her identity. She rented out the house because she usually lived with her father and sister. The house she had purchased before was empty, so it's better to rent it out and make some money. That's also why she makes unreasonable demands. The artist's identity is very sensitive, and she doesn't want to expose her private life too much. On screen, she is Lin Yuner from her teenage years. In private, she wants to be herself again. She may be a bit selfish, but that's what she thinks. In Korea, where there are all trainees, being an artist is just a profession. It's not a big deal. Moreover, she has just met Su Lin, and even though he doesn't look like a bad person, as an artist, she has a strong sense of vigilance. The two of them arrived at the teaching building one after another. Su Lin looked at the familiar figure, opened his mouth, not knowing what to say, while Lin Yuner turned around and looked at him with beautiful eyes. That's a pleasant collaboration, Su Lin. If you need any help, you can send me a text message directly. Goodbye, okay, goodbye. As Su Lin said this, Lin Yuner had already turned around and taken a few steps out. Watching the receding figure, Su Lin murmured. Lin Yuner. Holding the signed rental contract, Su Lin casually ate something outside and returned to the dormitory, ready to pack his luggage. Having spent all the money, even if the other party is a big star, it is only natural for them to spend money on housing. Su Lin no longer thinks too much and puts all his clothes, shoes, and some daily necessities in a suitcase. Of course, a suitcase is definitely not enough, but college students are not just limited to luggage. He couldn't find the urea bag in the dormitory. Therefore, Su Lin took out a storage bag that had not been used for a long time. Looking at the 2 large suitcases and 4 storage bags under the bed, Su Lin sat on the bedboard and flexed his wrist. He jumped up to the dormitory floor and sat in front of his desk searching for furniture online. Renting a house is different from living in a dormitory. Since you have moved out, your life should be more refined, and bedding is very necessary. After preparing everything, Su Lin finally felt at ease. As for the code words tomorrow is certain. After several days in a row, Su Lin not only focused on coding, but also paid attention to the grades of his novels every day, such as checking whether the average subscription had increased or how many novels had been collected. It's normal for the starting author to have such a mentality, but when he roasts about his achievements with his book friends, he often gets a sentence. "Why do you keep staring at your beat collection?" Very sharp words. Su Lin has nothing to say. Collecting is just surface level. What is truly worth paying attention to is following and subscribing. At present, his novel grades are good and average. It can cost around 5,000 yuan per month. At this moment, Su Lin closed his writer's assistant and took a sip of the hot tea brewed next to him. He had written several chapters today and could rest for a few days. Taking advantage of the remaining manuscripts, he decided to move to his rented house. After packing his daily necessities, Su Lin ran back and forth 3 or 4 times before moving his luggage downstairs to the dormitory. Tiredness is really tiring, and runningly will make it even more tiring. Moving is similar to moving an ordinary person. Su Lin, dragging his suitcase, pressed down the elevator on the 15th floor, sweating profusely. Just now he has already loaded the luggage in the storage bag. As long as he loads this suitcase, the move will be considered a complete success. With a ding sound, the elevator door opened, and Su Lin walked out of the elevator and turned right. He didn't take a few steps to reach the front of door 1503. Drop by drop the password is 905303. Opening the door and walking in, Su Lin felt refreshed and satisfied with the air conditioning coming from the storefront. He couldn't resist the boredom of summer. Fortunately, there is air conditioning. He dragged his suitcase inside, and the house rented by Lin Yuner belonged to the type of luggage occupancy. Except for the bedroom without bedding and the kitchen without pots and pans, there were almost all the necessary furniture in the house. After a simple cleaning, Su Lin walked around the house and found himself quite satisfied. After entering the door, there is a fake wall on the left side that separates the living room. There are grooves on the wall that can be used to store items. If you walk straight into the door, turn left to find the master bedroom, and turn right to find the second bedroom. The kitchen and toilet are on the right side of the door. The living room is not too big, the sofa is adjacent to the wall, and in front of it is the sofa and TV. Sitting on the sofa and looking to the right is the balcony. After familiarizing himself with the room, Su Lin sat on the sofa in the living room, turned on the computer and prepared to code. Perhaps because Lin Yuner has lived in this house before, or perhaps because it is in good condition, his inspiration today is simply pouring out. Su Lin suddenly felt that thinking like this was a bit abnormal, very abnormal. But it's not important. He caressed the keyboard with both hands. Start tapping with a crackling sound. At the same time, Lin Yuner, who was on a short break, arrived at the company. The Girls' Era second tour concert was not yet over, but the company prepared to let them participate in the Neon SMT first. In September, she didn't dare to slack off and planned to come to the company to practice dancing. Afterwards, she would gather with friends outside the circle to establish a relationship. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Lin Yuner, dressed in sportswear, stepped into the door of the practice room and greeted the dance teacher. "Yuner, which song do you want to practice?" Standing next to the sound system, the dance teacher asked. "New song, it's about to be performed. It's better to familiarize yourself with it to avoid making mistakes on stage." After grabbing the hem of the short-sleeved shirt, tying a knot, and revealing her fair and slender lower abdomen slightly, Lin Yuner stood in front of the mirror. The dance teacher asked again, are you only practicing this song? Or? Lin Yun'er, who was asked by the teacher, nodded. Practice this song first. After hearing this, the teacher opened the original song in his notebook. After a few seconds, the teacher quickly walked to the mirror. The next second, the music starts playing. The drumbeats and tones echoed through the practice room, and in no time, the sound of shoes rubbing against the floor also echoed. After about a few seconds, the music decreased and suddenly a radical and powerful tone appeared. Then, the girl in front of the mirror, her legs spread apart, and her arms and waist twitched with the sound of drumming. The twisting of the snake's waist does not have any charm, but rather gives a strong sense of strength. In the mirror, she is very handsome. Nearly 5 minutes. The dance is over. Lin Yun'er was panting slightly, and the dance teacher didn't wait for her. She turned her head and walked to the corner to play the next piece of music. When dancing, she can't say she enjoys it much, but at least she can put aside the comments from netizens about her poor acting skills. Escape. Not to mention, she still needs to work hard. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Su Lin, Junior Brother, are you busy? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Su Lin, Junior Brother, are you busy? The new environment gave Su Lin a lot of inspiration. He wrote with great enthusiasm, argued with his book friends when he had nothing to do, and apologized when he had something to do. What a big deal. At the beginning of writing, he had a bit of conscience. Now, that would be even better. Time flashed by, and September quietly arrived. Su Lin opened his eyes and glanced at the author's background as usual before finally getting up. The new students are starting school, and today Su Lin is going to school. He doesn't have much interest in his younger sister, but Professor Jin wants to discuss listening to the Zhongwu Road lecture with him. He really likes movies with meaningful content. Zhongwu Road is known as the ceiling of Korean actors, and the quality of movies goes without saying. Listening to lectures is beneficial for his writing. What if I could write scripts for movies and TV dramas in the future, isn't it better? Su Lin is not daydreaming, and it is not impossible for novels to be adapted into movies or TV dramas. He really enjoys the novel industry. Without the intrigue of commercial companies and the need to handle relationships with so-called colleagues, it's simply a dream job. Entering the restroom, brushing his teeth, washing and drying his hair, Su Lin finally changed into clothes and went to Donghua University. At the beginning of the school year, there were many new students. When they arrived at Donghua University, Su Lin was called senior by several girls, seeking help. However, he doesn't have that spare time. Su Lin pointed to a boy not far away and said, "Sorry, I have something urgent. You can go ask that senior. He looks very enthusiastic and should be able to help you." The girl followed Su Lin's fingers and saw a boy with squinting eyes and black-framed glasses pulling and tugging at several girls. After speaking, Su Lin turned around and left. In fact, he knew the boy who was a famous second-generation wealthy student in school. He either filled cups every day or was on the way to fill cups, and also liked to bully other classmates. Anyway, it's quite annoying, but it's normal to think about it. South Korea. Apart from kimchi, there is no other specialty besides bullying. Oh, kimchi is not theirs yet. With this in mind, Su Lin arrived at Professor Jin's office, and upon entering, he saw the familiar yet unfamiliar figure. "Su Lin is here, come on, I'll introduce you." Seeing Su Lin, Professor Jin's eyes lit up. However, upon hearing these words, Su Lin felt a bit weak in his legs. He pursed his lips and took a few steps forward, standing next to a girl. It's her again. But this time she didn't actually wear a mask and hat at this moment. Professor Jin pointed to the girl and introduced her with a smile. "Su Lin, you should know her. You and she are both my students, but she is too busy with her career and has not graduated yet. I am planning to take you two to this lecture. Speaking of which, she is still your landlord, but last time she didn't want to reveal her identity, and I didn't say anything about it. With Professor Jin's praise, Lin Yun'er's face turned red and she quickly put on a humble look, reaching out to Su Lin and saying, Su Lin, my name is Lin Runyi. Looking at the bony palm, Su Lin felt dazed and shook hands with the other person, suppressing his sense of shame. Senior sister, landlord, just call me, senior sister. Seeing him so panicked, Lin Yun'er chuckled lightly. I have to say that her face is very beautiful. Su Lin can clearly smell the perfume on her body when she is close to her. It may also be that she is self-control. Anyway, Su Lin is embarrassed. But he didn't have stage fright, on the contrary, the appearance he just discovered in his dress was almost unbelievable on his face. After introducing Lin Yun'er, Professor Jin turned his gaze to Su Lin and introduced him warmly. Su Lin is the most creative student I have ever taught, and in the future, he may become a famous screenwriter and director. As soon as he said this, Lin Yun'er cast a curious look at Su Lin, who turned blush red. Very thoughtful. Indeed, I don't know how to write novels without any ideas. But when facing Lin Yun'er, who became the protagonist of his novel YY, Su Lin was panicked and quickly denied it. No, it's just wishful thinking. Professor Jin has been praised too much. If there is nothing in his mind, it is called pretending to be, but Su Lin was introduced by Professor Jin as someone with ideas, but he denied it humility. He is really too modest. Lin Yun'er thought so, her beautiful eyes blinking and looking at Su Lin, as if she was curious about him. Internally, it's evident that Su Lin is very humble. As she looked, she said. This really messed up Su Lin. He didn't deny it, and it wasn't good to admit it. He could only grin awkwardly. But secretly roast in my heart. If you had seen my work, you wouldn't have said that. Do you understand what Liu Bei-shu is? However, there must be some ideas. Starting Point is known as a platform for preaching novels, where there are a variety of works and everything. If you don't have any ideas, you won't be able to survive here, and you may not even be able to sign a contract. Su Lin has a lot of ideas. Although he is a writer of sweet literature, he actually prefers literature. I think of my book friend crying while reading his book. He has a kind of inexplicable excitement. Su Lin and Lin Yun'er stood up in a proper manner. Professor Jin told them the time and location, and then looked at Su Lin with a smile. Speaking of which, Su Lin, you will be returning to your home country in 1 more year. Before you go back, you must complete the tasks I assigned you. You can't make excuses, I will check. Professor, Su Lin said somewhat surprised, but I haven't learned how to shoot, at most I can write the script. That's okay, don't write too beautiful scripts, regrets are the norm in life. Professor Jin's words excited Su Lin, but regret is similar to literature, which captures the various aspects of life and makes viewers or book enthusiasts burst into tears. Undoubtedly someone who can become a professor. You are so accurate in judging people. Okay professor, as long as I don't need to take photos, I can definitely complete my homework. Su Lin grinned and nodded in agreement. In front of Professor Jin, Lin Yun'er listened and observed Su Lin, suddenly feeling surprised. Besides being a bit handsome, this person's talent was also highly valued by Professor Jin. If it were in society, she might not have noticed Su Lin. His face is indeed handsome, but it hasn't reached the point of making people crazy about flowers. At most, can he be considered a handsome big boy? She didn't think much anymore, and after chatting with Professor Jin about work, she went downstairs with Su Lin. Stepping on the steps, Lin Yun'er turned her head and suddenly asked. Will Su Lin's younger brother work as a screenwriter in the future? Su Lin hesitated for a moment, and his footsteps involuntarily paused. Maybe, but it's still early to say that. I'm still a student now, senior sister. But Professor Jean seems to value you very much, which makes me feel like it would be a pity if you didn't write properly. At this moment, Lin Yuner stopped her steps and waited for Su Lin to follow her footsteps, then walked down shoulder to shoulder with herself. I just heard Professor Jean say, "Do you have homework?" "What is it?" "It's nothing," Su Lin grinned and casually said, "Professor Jean asked me to make a video, which is similar to a movie format, but I didn't have much confidence and didn't agree to the professor." "Did you agree just now?" "I agreed to write the script, let's just forget about the filming. I also need to find actors, how troublesome it is." "That's right." Lin Yuner nodded thoughtfully, obedient and seemingly quiet. During the conversation, the two of them arrived downstairs, waved goodbye, and Su Lin took a taxi back home. Going out in the summer was too torturous. Walking to the sofa, turning on the air conditioning, Su Lin threw himself onto the sofa and took a few deep breaths, feeling drowsy. While enjoying the drowsiness brought by summer, the phone placed on the sofa vibrated twice. "Don't think about it. It must be a reminder." Su Lin remained motionless, closed his eyes, and prepared to have a beautiful sleep, and he did indeed do so. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Su Lin woke up from sleep. In a daze, he groped for his phone and frowned after looking at the time. Kakao Talk has 2 unread messages. He opened the software and looked at it. One of them was a message sent by Professor Jean, perhaps afraid that he might forget. The content was about the time and location of Zhongwu Road's speech. And the other one is a verification message requested by a friend, with Korean annotations on it. Yuna. Su Lin, I am your landlord. Verified. Suddenly feeling a little uneasy, Su Lin pondered for a few seconds, then typed a line of text on the screen with his fingers and silently deleted it. He doesn't know what to say. Entangled endlessly. At this moment, a Kakao Talk exclusive message sounded, and Lin Yuner took the initiative to send him a message. Yuna. Su Lin, are you busy? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Love and Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Love and Death. Looking at this news, Su Lin was confused. Lin Yuner. She's looking for me. Are you asking me if I'm busy? Apart from Su Lin's portrayal of her as the female protagonist in a novel, the two of them should not have any intersection. After thinking for a moment, Su Lin typed a line of words and replied to the message. Not busy, what's up, senior sister? If the other party is a friend he is familiar with, according to Su Lin's habit, he may directly reply with 2 words. What's up? Or send a message. Number. But he was not familiar with Lin Yuner and even did YY's business, suddenly feeling like his wife caught him stealing food. It's quite strange. At this point. On the other side, in the teenage dormitory, Lin Yuner huddled on the bed with her legs in her arms, her chin tapping on her knees. After seeing the other person's response on the screen, she felt a bit at a loss. The competition in the entertainment industry is very fierce, not to mention actors, even the idol industry is fiercely contested, with fierce open and secret struggles. Similarly, the entertainment industry is a place that talks about human relationships and worldly wisdom, and Lin Yuner has understood this truth since her trainee years. The other party is Professor Jin's favorite student, as can be seen from Professor Jin's attitude towards Su Lin during the meeting. Lin Yuner. Su Lin is referred to as a good student by others. Being able to get the kind that the teacher favors. And Professor Jin's ability to become a professor naturally stems from her connections. In addition to knowing many great directors, Professor Jin is also very famous. I belong to a renowned teacher myself. In fact, her academic performance is also good, and she is very intelligent. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to get along in places like the entertainment industry. Su Lin can be valued by Professor Jin and may become a famous screenwriter or director in the future. After some thought, Lin Yuner decided to make friends with this good fate. She pursed her thin lips, typed a line of words, and sent it out. Yuna. Are you still used to living in a house? The landlord's concern for the tenant seemed quite normal. Su Lin held his phone, looked at the message, and then looked at the words on the computer screen in front of him, feeling mixed in his heart. Lin Yuner sensed her boyfriend's urgency, then wrapped her around his waist and looked up. This is the content that Su Lin just coded. Coincidentally, it was the content of driving, and a sense of shame surged in his heart in an instant. Grass. I really can't write anymore. Driving requires inspiration, and Lin Yuner suddenly sends him a message. Su Lin's heart is like those men who cannot restrain themselves. I want to write. But there's not a drop left. Of course, he is inspiration. Su Lin suppressed his sense of shame and held his phone, typing a reply. I'm quite used to it, thank you for your concern, senior sister. Yuna. Is the location of the house okay? There are many shops outside the community. If you have any other questions, you can contact me directly. Okay. After sending the message, Su Lin's mind was swollen. He knew that the other party was saying polite things. A big star is not like him, he must be extremely busy. Throwing his phone on the sofa, he pondered and couldn't come up with any better driving content. Lin Yuner didn't reply again, probably busy. There are many surviving manuscripts of novels now. So he decided. First, complete the homework left for him by Coach Jean. Art originates from life and is higher than life. Su Lin's novels are indeed very popular, but appreciating both refined and popular is what the public wants to read. Script assignment at present, Su Lin still can't figure out how to get the public involved in the plot, and this question is really difficult for him. Then, a murmuring voice rang out in the room, what can I write to make others cry? Nestled on the sofa, Su Lin was thinking and suddenly, his mind seemed to be awakened, and inspiration surged out in an instant. Love and death. One sweet to the point of fainting, and the other terrifying. Both are things that ordinary people have to experience, and they are also the most empathetic things. Su Lin began to ponder, and after about 5 or 6 minutes, his eyes lit up. After getting up, touched the keyboard on the desktop with both hands. Da-da-da. With this sound, 2 more lines of planning appeared on the screen. Hold your son's hand and grow old together with him. The combination of death and love. 2 days later, Su Lin took a taxi to Donghua University and walked directly to Professor Jin's office. After knocking on the door and receiving permission, he pushed it open. When he walked in, he happened to see Professor Jin looking at him. Facing each other, Professor Jin was somewhat surprised. The lecture is scheduled for tomorrow, so it is reasonable that Su Lin should not be looking for her at this time. Su Lin. What can I do for you? Professor Jin asked. Su Lin, holding the script, didn't hesitate much. As she approached, she respectfully placed a few pieces of paper on her desk. Professor Jin, I have finished the homework you left me, but it's a bit peculiar. I want you to see if it's possible. Have you finished writing? So fast. Upon hearing this, Professor Jin seemed incredulous. Writing a script is not something that can be completed in a short period of time. It is even more difficult to write a script that evokes empathy than reaching the sky. Although Su Lin has a good academic background, the speed of writing a script cannot be so fast. Even a famous screenwriter cannot write a good script in 2 or 3 days, at most there will be ideas in their minds. Without a year and a half, Hollywood screenwriters cannot write a good script. Professor Jin's first reaction to this was, did Su Lin break his studies? Did you write a script to perfunctory homework? Su Lin brought all the scripts, and Professor Jin couldn't have ignored them, so he smiled and nodded. Let me take a look first. Are you writing the script so fast? Flipping the paper casually, Professor Jin looked up at him. Su Lin didn't speak, just looked at Professor Jean and nodded, with a very conflicted expression on his face. To be honest, he doesn't know if this idea is good or not. Anyway, it's quite novel. With expectations for Su Lin, Professor Jean put down his work and turned his gaze to the first page of the script. There is no title, the first page only has Korean theory. Professor Jean was originally a bit surprised, but as she looked down, her eyebrows couldn't help but furrow and her expression kept changing. After a long time, she looked up at Su Lin and said, "Su Lin, is this form still a script? These are all used by students to perfunctory teachers. What do you think?" "Professor, I didn't perfunctory you." Su Lin was stunned for a moment and expressed his own thoughts. "This is not really a script, but I didn't want to find actors to play it. In fact, it is a project, a movie that records the lives of ordinary people, and it makes people feel more connected." Without any surprise, Professor Jean, who had heard too many such excuses, suddenly felt disappointed and said in a serious tone, "I know, but who are you planning to film?" "Film yourself. This is still being screened, I may need your help with something, Professor Jean. I'm not very good at it myself." "What are you busy with?" "You can talk to the teacher first." Suppressing his anger, Professor Jean frowned and whispered to himself. This child really has a bad habit of learning. Su Lin didn't pay much attention to Professor Jin's expression, but instead said, "I don't know many friends in Korea, so I would like to ask Professor Jean to help me introduce a few friends. I need to go and shoot on my own. Do you still want to take photos?" "Are you crazy, Su Lin?" Unable to contain the anger in her heart, Professor Jean shouted, "Su Lin is her most optimistic student, but he is acting recklessly like this." Disappointment. She suddenly felt a bit disappointed with Su Lin. Donghua University has the Zhongwu Road Imaging Center, which has all the equipment related to film production. Similarly, Professor Jean also knows that Su Lin is different from those extravagant second-generation wealthy people. However, such a child suddenly gave her a terrible script, saying that not being disappointed was fake, and even had a feeling of misreading someone. Looking at Professor Jin's indignant gaze, Su Lin explained in a humble tone. "Professor Jean, I guarantee this is not a bad script. The love movies played by actors are all inspired by ordinary people by screenwriters. So why can't we let ordinary people act as actors and present real stories to everyone? Is this kind of script really a bad script?" The office fell into silence. Upon hearing these words, Professor Jean suddenly had a feeling that perhaps the child was not joking with him. Su Lin looked very serious, and after a few seconds, Professor Jean pointed to the chair and asked him to sit down. After Su Lin obediently took his seat, Professor Jean handed him the few pieces of paper, took a deep breath, and asked seriously. "Tell me what you want me to do for you." "Professor Jean, I want to rent filming equipment," Su Lin, who was sitting in a chair, said straightforwardly. "Also, I want to position the protagonist of this movie as an elderly person." "Professor Jean, do you know any kind-hearted elderly people? I want to film their stories." "Old man. Do you mean to make a documentary? But isn't everything in your script about love? What's the relationship with the old man?" Upon hearing Su Lin's request, Professor Jean couldn't help but feel puzzled. A professor in her position doesn't know any elderly people. Su Lin didn't talk nonsense and said solemnly. "The theme I am shooting is love and death." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Kind. Senior Sister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Kind. Senior Sister. Love and Death. Upon hearing this, Professor Jean was very surprised. Her expression was solemn, and she looked at Su Lin's delicate face and said politely. "The idea is great, but have you ever thought that documentaries about love and death are so absurd that the elderly wouldn't let you shoot them? I understand, but I still want to give it a try." Su Lin nodded and said respectfully, "There is too much love in the city, and your perspective did not understand what I mean. The reason why the protagonist changed to an elderly person is because the pace of modern love is too fast, like fast food." Speaking of which, Su Lin took a deep breath and looked at Professor Jean, who was lost in thought, as he spoke again. "If I don't film love in the city, but instead record a pure love story, in modern times, only selfless love and sudden death can move people the most." Upon hearing this, Professor Jean understood that Su Lin was truly the student she valued the most. Su Lin's ideas were indeed unique. To put it simply, when Qin is sick. I want to awaken the distorted view of love in contemporary times. After a brief moment of contemplation, Professor Jean said, "I can help you solve the equipment problem, but I can't help you with the shooting content. I don't know the personnel you need." Su Lin said, feeling a bit lost. "But there's someone who can help you," Professor Jean said with a smile as he changed his tone. "The people I know are all directors, but your senior sister has been in the entertainment industry for so long, so she must have made many friends." "Senior sister? Professor, you mean? Senior sister Lin Yuner?" "That's right." Professor Jean smiled at Su Lin and said calmly, "She often does good deeds. Maybe she will know those elderly people. I can't share your thoughts with other directors, why don't you ask her?" Su Lin was almost killed by Professor Jean, and he twitched his lips, feeling a sudden sense of absurdity in his heart. "Grass. Can we exchange it for another one? Why must it be her?" He talked to Professor Jean about movies, and Professor Jean talked to him about these things. After some thought, Su Lin nodded stiffly and tentatively asked Professor Jean, "Perhaps the professor knows any other artists who enjoy doing good deeds?" What's going on?" Professor Jean was taken aback and said in confusion, "Do you have any unpleasant things with Yuner? Did you have an argument about renting a house?" No. Su Lin quickly waved his hand. Can he say that he had fantasized about Lin Yuner as the female lead in a novel not right? How can the affairs of a scholar be called fantasy? It's a compilation. Unable to do anything, Su Lin pursed his lips, stood up, bowed to Professor Jean, and thanked him. After bowing, "I'll trouble Professor Jean about the equipment, I'll think of other ways." "Okay," Professor Jean nodded and suddenly asked again, "Are you sure there hasn't been anything unpleasant with Yuner?" "Of course not, my senior sister is quite kind to me. Indeed, not to mention being beautiful, the most important thing is that the person is also very kind." They proactively contact Su Lin and say that if there is a problem with the house, they can contact themselves. But he dared not take the initiative to find Lin Yuner. If he were to be discovered, he would really have to live on a different planet. After all, Su Lin is guilty of being a thief. After chatting with Professor Jean again, Su Lin said goodbye and returned home, lying directly on the sofa, feeling extremely frustrated. "Should I proactively contact you? But if I become familiar with it, there is a risk of my own novel being discovered. It will be very embarrassing then, right? It's not possible to contact my previous roommates either. They are also from Seoul and each one is very self-proclaimed. Although Su Lin has a good relationship with them, he doesn't want to tell them about this. Human nature is the most difficult to grasp, and it is uncertain whether these people will steal his creativity after telling them about it. Tell Professor Jean that other directors are the same. Besides these people, Lin Yuner is an artist in the entertainment industry, and her identity as a director is not directly related to her. She is the only person Su Lin can contact." Sitting on the soft sofa, holding his phone, Su Lin thought for a moment and slid his fingers on the screen. In the end, I clicked on the chat interface with Lin Yuner and said a very classic sentence. "Senior, are you there? Neon, Dome backstage. Haha. Be gentle, my leg hurts so much." In the fitting room, Lin Yuner looked at Li Yanmin, the fashion designer in front of her, with a small face full of grievances, as if she had been bullied. After hearing this, Li Yanmin straightened up in anger and raised her hand to tap her head. Who made you go crazy on the field? It's okay now, the rivets almost pricked you. I'm so happy. Lin Yuner blushed and quickly explained, the fans on site were too enthusiastic. I couldn't control myself. Oh my god, there are too many clothes with nails. This is a rivet, very popular. Li Yanmin rolled her eyes. If it weren't for the end of the concert, she wouldn't have known that Lin Yuner had a problem. The atmosphere of the concert was indeed very lively. Lin Yuner interacted with the fans on the field and accidentally scratched herself. With a grin on her face, Lin Yuner remained silent. After Li Yanmin removed the rivets from her performance attire, she changed back into her own clothes and walked out in slippers. Now that the concert has ended, she will fly back to South Korea early tomorrow morning to attend a lecture on Chungwoo Road. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel tired. She politely greeted the members and then sat down on the sofa in the lounge, taking out her phone to contact Professor Jean. Click on the screen, open Kakao Talk, and happen to see the message Su Lin sent her. What difficulties have you encountered? Because we will meet tomorrow, she immediately replied to Su Lin. Yuna. What's wrong? After sending, it was displayed as read before being read, indicating that Su Lin was quite anxious. Senior, I would like to ask for your help. Perhaps you know some kind-hearted elderly people. Elderly people. Upon seeing the news, Lin Yuner was somewhat puzzled because she often donated money to do good deeds and did know many elderly people. But what does Su Lin do with the elderly? She decided to ask clearly, and her slender fingers quickly slid over the screen, typing a line of words. Yuna. I know you, what are you doing? It's like this, senior sister. Didn't Professor Jean leave me homework? I want to shoot a movie about ordinary elderly people's love. Yuna. Sweat, Yuna. I see, but the elderly person I know is not from Seoul. Do you want to take a photo? On the other hand, Su Lin was overjoyed to see this news. What he was looking for was outsiders, and filming city love was not his goal. He put away his excited expression and replied with his phone. Shoot. Can you introduce me to you, senior sister? After posting, Su Lin felt that it was not appropriate. Lin Yuner is an artist and is usually very busy. In case the other party doesn't have time, is his request a bit excessive? Then Su Lin added by typing again. If the senior sister has time, Yuna. Of course there is. Coincidentally, my concert has ended here. The next concert will be in October. Can we discuss it in detail when we go back to the lecture tomorrow? Okay, thank you, senior. Thank you so much. The other party did not reply again, but Su Lin was extremely happy. While lying on the sofa feeling happy, suddenly his phone vibrated twice again. He quickly opened it to see if his senior sister had something to ask him for. Result: QQ Book Friend Group. It's short and getting more and more broken. One chapter a day is not enough. I've also come to urge the clock, hurry up. I can't sleep at night. Looking at the news in the group chat, Su Lin, who was brought back to reality, was shocked and suddenly had an immature idea. Can I cut a book? Su Lin didn't want to be discovered by Lin Yuner, so he tried to cut the book and hide it. As long as he cut quickly enough, others wouldn't find out that he was a Korean entertainment author. However, from the perspective of book enthusiasts, this behavior is very shameful, and then Su Lin got a few words. I just finished reading the latest chapter, don't force me to slap you when I'm happiest. How many have you cut? Okay, it seems that it can't be cut anymore. Su Lin is a bit depressed, but as long as he hides it well enough. Shouldn't be discovered, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Don't worry, my driving skills are very stable. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 8. Don't worry, my driving skills are very stable the next day. Getting up from the bed, Su Lin felt dizzy and his head was swollen, and his eyes were sore. Writing novels made his schedule irregular. He stayed up until 2 a.m. last night, inevitably feeling a bit lethargic today. Fortunately, the lecture was in the afternoon, otherwise Su Lin might not have been able to listen to much knowledge when he arrived at the venue. Stepping on slippers, Su Lin entered the bathroom to wash up. After finishing, he returned to the bedroom and changed into pants and a white shirt. Walk to the living room, grab your sunscreen and prepare to go out. Get in the car after leaving the community. Later, Su Lin arrived at the Zhongwu Road Imaging Center and met Professor Jin. He followed Professor Jin up to the third floor. Go through the corridor and arrive at the lecture venue. The flag of Pepsi Cola is placed next to the entrance. There are many students attending the lecture. In addition to the Zhongwu Road Actors Meeting, there are also many writers and directors on stage to share their work experience today. Entering the door and looking around, the first thing that catches the eye is the red carpet, which extends all the way to the lecture at the forefront. Su Lin was somewhat speechless, looking at the wreaths arranged horizontally on the lecture platform. His heart was extremely complex. Those who didn't know thought he came to attend the memorial service. Professor Jin wanted to greet other professors and directors, and Su Lin bowed to say goodbye to Professor Jin. I went alone to the designated area. In the second row, on the far right, Su Lin took a deep breath and sat down. The first row was filled with seats for directors, writers, and actors. He and Professor Jin are going to sit in the second row to listen to the lecture, and currently Lin Yuner has not arrived, so he is not in a hurry. Anyway, Lin Yuner's position is next to him. Surrounded by hustle and bustle, more and more students arrived at the venue, and soon it was filled with people. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the lecture began. Creating visuals is a very unique art, whether it's lighting, scenery, clothing, makeup, performance, dialogue, behind-the-scenes editing, or background music, it's all very important. Looking at the writer delivering a speech on stage with a microphone, Su Lin's lips twitched as a PPT was still playing behind the podium. It's a bit of nonsense literature. This theoretical knowledge is available in textbooks. Do you need him to say it? Inexplicably disappointed, Su Lin glanced at Professor Jin and noticed that she was also distracted. It seemed that there was a big problem with this lecture. He lowered his head, took out his mobile phone from his pocket, and was just about to roast to his book friends. A beautiful figure walked over. Due to the delay of the plane, Lin Yuner arrived at the venue. She bowed down and walked according to the seat number provided by Professor Jin. After seeing Professor Jin and Su Lin, she felt relieved. Walking towards her own position, Lin Yuner met Professor Jin on the way and then sat down next to Su Lin. Ah, you're late. Has Director Cui Dongxuan finished speaking? Just as she sat down, Lin Yuner asked Su Lin, with a look of regret on her face. Su Lin shook his head and turned off his phone before saying, No, it's time for the writer to give a speech, and it's not yet time for the director and actors. Inside, Kong Sang Mida, nodding obediently, Lin Yuner turned her gaze to the podium. Bright eyes, looking particularly seriously. Su Lin unconsciously leans to the side because he is so close to Lin Yuner that he can clearly smell the perfume on the other side. She is wearing a red and white logo leather-sleeved shirt today, paired with a red short skirt and casual shoes. Her hair is scattered on her shoulders, and her youthful vitality makes her particularly bright and charming. With her long legs crossed, Lin Yuner sat obediently in her seat, listening attentively like a newly enrolled student. Effort and progress. In this way, the lecture lasted until 7 p.m., and after the end, the students dispersed. Some students also asked artists for signatures. At 7:40, the students in the meeting finally dispersed, and Professor Jin spoke to Lin Yuner and Su Lin before going to chat with the director. Except for the staff cleaning up the podium, only Lin Yuner and Su Lin sat in their original positions at the venue. Suddenly feeling a bit awkward, Su Lin looked at Lin Yuner. Senior sister. Are you asking about yesterday? Upon hearing the sound, Lin Yuner silently put away her phone and turned her head, her bright eyes fixed on the big boy beside her. Jiangyuan Dao, have you ever been there? No, Su Lin shook his head and said truthfully, but have you ever heard of this place? Does the person my senior sister knows in Jiangyuan Road? Yes, I have donated money there and received many thank you letters. If you want to make a movie, I can take you there. Take me over. Su Lin hesitated for a moment and quickly said, no need, don't worry about such a small matter. You can tell me the address and I'll go by myself. Are you joking? If the facts permit, Su Lin doesn't want to have too much interaction with her. But Lin Yuner doesn't think so. She has earned a lot of money since her debut, which has been used for charitable purposes and donations. She also went to Kangwon this time to donate money. Her father taught her from a young age to be kind, to be famous and earn a lot of money, and giving back a portion of the money to society is not excessive. Upon hearing Su Lin's words, Lin Yuner blinked. Go by yourself. Can you find the way? The terrain there is very complex, why are you so polite with your senior sister? Su Linren is foolish. Sister, I'm not being polite to you. If she knew about that, she might have killed herself with a heart. Gripping his hands tightly, Su Lin gritted his scalp and explained. No, my senior sister is not an artist. She should be very busy with work. Aren't you going to have a concert tour later? That's October, Lin Yuner said inexplicably. I've read all those letters, and my grandparents want me to come. For her words, Su Lin fell silent, indicating that Lin Yuner was indeed a kind person, but there was really no need to treat him so well. There's something he's really sorry to say. Looking at Su Lin in silence, Lin Yuner was very puzzled. Junior. Inside. Senior sister. Su Lin was pulled back to reality. Then please ask senior sister to lead me, Kong sang Mida. Well, you're welcome. Even though Lin Yuner felt that the other party was a bit strange, she couldn't directly ask the reason and could only say this with a smile. After 2 consecutive days, an SUV drove into the community. In the parking lot of the community, the two met again and looked at the girl on the driver's seat. Su Lin pursed his lips and panicked. Senior, do we really need to drive by ourselves? Of course, Lin Yuner nodded and held the steering wheel in both hands before saying, it takes 2 hours by car to Jiangyuan Road, and it only takes more than an hour to drive by yourself. Don't you believe my senior sister? Speaking of this, Lin Yuner suddenly turned her head, her bright eyes fixed on Su Lin, who was on pins and needles, and a cold voice followed. Or do you think I can't drive? No, no. Su Lin quickly waved his hand, but the expression on his face betrayed his true thoughts. He doesn't know if his driving skills are good or not. But driving still depends on the author. Oh, no. It depends on her driving experience. Her driver's license was obtained in 2012, and within a year, Su Lin didn't believe she would do very well. Regarding this, Lin Yuner was also speechless. If it weren't for this guy being Professor Jin's favorite student. She had to argue with this person. After pursing her thin lips, Lin Yuner started the car while also comforting the nervous Su Lin. Don't worry, my driving skills are very stable. Upon hearing these words, Su Lin was taken aback. He seemed to have said the same thing to his book friends, and then he grinned and said, I'll trouble my senior sister, then. Although he said that, his smile was even uglier than crying. Vehicle starts. Su Lin quickly fastened his seatbelt, with a serious expression and a straight gaze towards the front, his heart pounding. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Fate and Death. Origin. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 9. Fate and Death. Origin. To be honest, Lin Yuner doesn't have many opportunities to drive. If it weren't for Su Lin, she would have been quite happy driving this time. I don't know why, but looking at Su Lin's expression, Lin Yuner felt a bit depressed. This guy, I'm almost putting my distrust on my face. Are you not giving face to your senior sister like this? Grasping the steering wheel with both hands, Lin Yuner took a turn and successfully drove the car out of the parking lot. The hot sunlight outside the window shone on her face. After a few seconds, she spoke up and asked. Junior, do you want to go to the cinema to watch the movie you made? I don't know yet. Su Lin shook his head and opened his thin lips lightly. I'm going to shoot a documentary like this, and it feels like very few people would buy tickets to watch it. Let's talk about it later. Hey, what you're making is a romantic movie. As long as it can be released, there will definitely be many couples going to watch it. What I filmed may be different from ordinary love, Su Lin explained after careful consideration, may be quite sad. Oh, a love triangle. Or love without permission. Whether it's a movie or a TV series, it's basically a routine, and Lin Yuner, who has entered the entertainment industry, is very clear about this. Characteristics of Korean dramas in their third year. From the earliest car accidents, cancer, and incurable diseases, it has gradually evolved into today's love, long legs, and aliens. She is really too familiar with it. When making a movie about an elderly person, all she can think of is time travel or the help of a deity to make the elderly person's face shine. She can only be said to be young. The pattern has become smaller. Su Lin, who was amused, shook his head and explained with a grin, it's not a movie about this. What I want to film is real love, the kind that can instantly bring people back to reality and immerse them in it. I don't understand. Focusing on driving, Lin Yuner said this sentence. After speaking, she glanced at Su Lin and immediately withdrew her gaze. It has to be said that Su Lin's appearance is not particularly stunning, but he belongs to the type of person who looks more and more handsome. Unlike Ai Do, this face has an inexplicable coldness that makes people feel good about him. Of course, this kind of goodwill is the kind that I want to be friends with. Looking at the traffic lights ahead, Lin Yuner stopped and asked. How long will you be filming this movie? I'll also go and see it then. Ah. Looking at those clear and beautiful eyes, Su Lin was somewhat surprised. Lin Yuner ignored Su Lin's expression and said, I want to support you. You need to refuel. Don't forget to be an elder sister when you become famous. Did I become famous? Looking at his surprised expression, Lin Yuner chuckled. I'm teasing you, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Well, is the pressure okay? I don't necessarily have to work in the film and television industry when I return to my hometown in the future. There are quite a few film and television industries in my family, and I only shoot the movies I want. I don't care about others' ideas, so it's a bit difficult to become famous. Su Lin smiled. This is it. At this moment, the red light at the intersection turned into a green light. Lin Yuner started the car and asked in broken Chinese. So, which student are you from? Provincial. Birth must have been born to my mother. Although her Chinese was very poor, Su Lin still understood her meaning and said in Korean with a smile. Hebei, have you heard of it? No, Koreans definitely don't understand Chinese cities, and when it comes to it, Chinese people themselves may not be able to name all provinces. Su Lin didn't pay much attention and introduced. My hometown is a very powerful city, but I currently live in Beijing. You should know about this city, right? Lin Yuner must know about the city of Beijing. She nodded, didn't say a word, and shifted all her attention to driving. At present, Lin Yuner's driving is still okay. When Su Lin was about to find a topic, Lin Yuner glanced at the boy next to him, and the two happened to bump into each other's line of sight, causing an awkward atmosphere. Senior sister, it feels quite magical. I really want to see what's in your top students' minds. They started making movies themselves at a young age. After casually discussing a topic, Lin Yuner glanced at him again, with a glint in her eyes as if she wanted to open a ladle for him. Su Lin hesitated to speak. If someone said it, he might believe that they were truly envious, but this was what Lin Yuner said. Envy oneself. They make money on their own. Are you still saying you're young? Koreans are really harsh on the culture of their predecessors and predecessors. Of course, such words cannot be spoken in person. Su Lin pursed his lips and leaned his back completely against the seat of the car, saying in a plain voice. My senior sister is also very talented, she is the most perfect artist I have ever seen. Hey, why are you saying these things? Upon hearing this, Lin Yuner felt a bit embarrassed, but she did not deny it. After thinking for a few seconds, she suddenly said. There is no perfect person in the world, how to say. I also have times when I have a bad temper, and my fans think of me too well, making me unable to fall in love or do anything wrong now. The topic suddenly became heavy, and Su Lin was caught off guard. In fact, Lin Yuner had no other intention of saying these things. It was just that after wearing the mask for a long time, her mind twitched and she suddenly wanted to find someone to confide in. After speaking, she regretted it and quickly added. Just kidding, my fans are still very good. Is the senior sister in a relationship? Su Lin suddenly asked. Upon hearing these words, Lin Yuner's heart suddenly stopped, and she shook her head with a stiff scalp, pretending to smile lightly. What do you think? It's difficult for artists to date. A very common excuse, Su Lin is not foolish. When people lie, they will subconsciously make some small actions. Just now, he noticed that Lin Yuner's eyes were flickering. It should be a lie. Why can't artists fall in love? My senior sister has been thinking for too long, and we need to fight for our own rights. It's not like a doll, why can't ordinary people enjoy love with artists? With a shrug of his shoulders, Su Lin casually said. After hearing these words, Lin Yuner was stunned, pursed her thin lips, and suddenly felt a little confused in her heart. Then she chuckled lightly and patted the steering wheel, but there was no response. She shook her head as if mocking herself. Seeing her like this, Su Lin smiled and asked. Did you really talk about it? There's nothing good about dating. Talking recklessly can be misunderstood by others. If it has a negative impact on the company, I'll be in trouble. Lin Yuner remained calm and composed. Through this sentence, Su Lin finally realized it. Even if she's not in a relationship. That must also be in the stage of being pursued. The human subconscious does not lie, she did not deny it, but forcibly interrupted the topic. Similarly, Su Lin also understood that it was impolite to casually inquire about someone else's private life. He bowed slightly to Lin Yuner and said. Sorry, senior. It's okay, I didn't care. With a casual response, Lin Yuner continued driving. The car fell into silence, and neither of them spoke. Su Lin took out his phone and avoided her gaze to reply to the message from his book friend. When Lin Yuner saw it, she turned her head and suddenly said. Girlfriend. Ah. Su Lin was startled when he heard the sound and casually turned off the screen. I don't have a girlfriend. Didn't college talk about girlfriends? No one chasing after her. Lin Yuner said and turned her head to look at Su Lin. It is impossible for a girl to confess her face and figure, as she would be looked at more by passers-by while walking on the road, let alone in a hormonal university. In response to this, Su Lin Xiaoxiong shrugged and truthfully replied. I am studying seriously, my senior sister, but there are indeed girls chasing me, and there are rumors that we are already together. They say we look very compatible, and even my friends are persuading me to be with her. Ahem, thinking of these makes me feel depressed. Do friends also advise? Yeah, all kinds of teasing. I don't quite understand this behavior. It feels childish, like a junior high school student. Silent and speechless, Lin Yuner pursed her lips and instinctively clenched the steering wheel with both hands. Suddenly, her words stopped and she didn't know what to say. To be honest, she is experiencing the same situation as Su Lin. Being chased by others, friends and colleagues say they are a perfect match, and she is still considering it at the moment the vehicle was driving on the road and quickly passed through a tunnel. Seeing the wasteland and mountains, he and Lin Yuner left Seoul. I don't know why, but in the scorching summer, the sunlight suddenly became less scorching, as if something was about to happen. The car continued to drive towards Jiangyuan Road. After about 10 minutes of contemplation, Lin Yuner took a deep breath and suddenly asked Su Lin. Su Lin, what do you think? Me. After being asked for a few seconds, Su Lin couldn't help but laugh. Is the person following me? Of course not. Although they have a background, love and financial rights are not the same. If I were with her, it should be considered a transaction, right? Su Lin said something very ordinary, but Lin Yuner frowned. Then she casually said. Aleso, Su Linshi's idea is very handsome. Transliterated, the meaning of understood. Afterwards, the two of them had no further conversation, except half an hour later when the car arrived at the gas station halfway to refuel. Two butterflies fluttered their wings and flew over. One white, one red. It happened to stop by Lin Yuner's car window. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Jiangyuan Road. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Jiangyuan Road. The sunlight dissipated and the sky suddenly turned cloudy. Amidst the sound of music from the car, Su Lin turned his head and observed the weather outside through the window. He calmly said. It's going to rain. Normal, the weather changes very quickly in September. Lin Yuner responded with a smile on her lips. We're about to arrive. Is it a welfare home? Whispering softly, Su Lin had a myriad of thoughts. During the journey from driving to Jiangyuan Road, Su Lin learned about the purpose of Lin Yuner accompanying her. She came to Jiangyuan Road to donate money to the welfare home and nursing home, and soon it will be winter. Donations can help many elderly people and children overcome the cold. Usually, this kind of thing is done by the state, but many places in South Korea do not have the ability to support welfare homes and nursing homes in purchasing coal. To put it simply, someone is greedy. The welfare home is inhabited by young children. Living in a nursing home is a group of elderly people without children. 15 minutes later, the car turned into the street corner and stopped at the entrance of a nursing home. Lin Yuner unbuttoned her seatbelt and said. Junior, we're here. Let's go down and take a look. NEI. Su Lin nodded. Unbelt and get off the car. The two walked side by side to the door. Lin Yuner stood on tiptoe and waved to the caregiver in the courtyard. When the caregiver saw it, he quickly walked over and opened the iron door with a smile on his face. Feeling strange, Su Lin followed behind Lin Yuner, watching her with a friendly smile on her face and chatting with the caregiver. Quickly, the three of them arrived at the elderly person's accommodation area. The elderly person, who was originally sitting in a gloomy mood at the entrance of the corridor, was amazed when he saw Lin Yuner. He quickly got up and walked towards her, muttering. Oh Momo, will she come and see us elderly people despite being so busy with work? Sigh, it's really hard. The old man gently held Lin Yuner's hand in his palm, his face filled with not only heartache but also emotion. It's not hard, Grandma Jean. Lin Yuner smiled sweetly and let Grandma Jean hold her hand. I miss my grandparents very much, and I have read all the letters you wrote to me carefully. Ah Gu, will Shibi is so kind. Grandma Jean was deeply moved and held Lin Yuner's hand, unwilling to let go. With a glance, she happened to see Su Lin behind her. Almost unaware, Su Lin quickly bowed and said. Aniasi, Grandma Jean, is this Shibi's boyfriend? Grandma Jin's face was filled with a smile. Ah, Igu, she looks really handsome. No, Grandma Jean, Lin Yuner explained with a slight blush as she held Grandma Jin's hand and said, he's my junior. Oh, that's it. Grandma misunderstood. Grandma Jean nodded and understood their relationship. Similarly, Su Lin's face was also a bit hot and dry, but fortunately, the caregiver Park Su-en promptly took away Grandma Jean. The donation matter has not been finalized yet, so it is not advisable to disturb grandparents recklessly. After all, artists have limited time and cannot stay in nursing homes all the time. They must first handle important matters. Subsequently, Park Su-en brought Lin Yuner and Su Lin to the office, where the dean had been waiting for a long time with a silly smile on his face. He looks very kind. After the two of them entered, Li Zhuqing quickly stood up and said. Oh my goodness, Yuner, it's been a long time since we last saw each other. I've been really amazing during my teenage years lately. The elderly rarely pay attention to idol groups, but Lin Yuner played a TV drama before, and most elderly people would call her Zhang Shibi. However, unlike the dean, he pays attention to this kind girl. Dean Li, Nim. Lin Yuner bowed and greeted Su Lin, then sat on the sofa with him and said directly, Dean Li, besides donating, I have one more thing I would like to ask for your help with this time. Upon hearing this, Li Zhuqing looked sincere and spoke in a serious tone. Just say it, Yuner, I will definitely help. It's not a big deal, Dean Li doesn't need to do this. Lin Yuner smiled and waved her hand, turning her head to look at Su Lin. Dean Li, this is a younger brother who has a good relationship with me. He's a filmmaker. Perhaps Dean Li doesn't know a kind-hearted elderly person. It's for making movies, Li Zhuqing murmured. Su Lin just said hello to him, and Li Zhuqing thought this person was Lin Yuner's assistant or agent. Saying help may be to make the donation public. But he never expected it. This person is a filmmaker. After pondering for a while, Li Zhuqing looked at Su Lin and said, what kind of elderly person is Director Su looking for? Maybe I really know him. No, Dean Li, just call me Su Lin. Su Lin, who was called Director Su, was panicked and quickly waved his hand, trying to ask Dean Li to change his name. At present, he cannot bear the title of director. He felt guilty when others called him that. After speaking, Su Lin looked sincerely at Li Zhuqing. It's like Dean Li. I want to shoot a movie about elderly love in the form of a documentary. I haven't found a suitable actor yet. Do you know such an elderly person? Elderly love. Director Su, let me think about it. With a response, Li Zhuqing began to ponder. After about 2 minutes, his eyes lit up and he instinctively patted his palm. Pop. Got it. I remember there was a village on the other side of Hengcheng, where there lived a pair of elderly people who were nearly 100 years old and they were very kind. Really? Do you recognize Dean Li? Can you introduce me to him? Upon hearing this, Su Lin felt a little excited. Lin Yuner, standing beside him, vaguely touched Su Lin's arm, signaling that he should not be so excited. After all, Dean Li is older than both of them. Sensing the movement, Su Lin suddenly woke up. Sorry, Dean Li, Nim. I'm too excited. It's okay. I've done volunteer work there before, and I do know each other. However, for the filming of the movie, Director Su needs you to personally communicate with the two elderly people. NEI. No problem, Kongsangmida. Su Lin bowed slightly and cast a grateful glance at Li Zhuqing. I understand the situation here in Korea. Su Lin is a foreigner, and it would be great if there were Koreans to help. It would save a lot of trouble, and it can only be said that it is a godsend opportunity. As for the equipment for making movies, don't forget, he is a college student from the East. Professor Jean will help him borrow the filming machine. There's no need to worry about the cost. Now Su Lin just needs to persuade Li Zhu to become the old man he talks about, and the rest is very simple. Take out your phone and write your phone number on the note. Li Zhuqing handed the note to Su Lin and said, "This is the contact information of those two elderly people's children, it's best to greet them first." Inside. Putting away the note, Su Lin bowed again. "Thank you so much, Dean Li. It's okay." Waving his hand, Li Zhuqing had a silly smile on his face. He doesn't understand movies, let alone why Su Lin wants to film elderly love. From his perspective, helping the elderly is what he wants to do. Looking at Su Linru's precious appearance, Lin Yuner smiled, and then she spoke up to discuss the donation with Li Zhuqing. Of course, Su Lin cannot participate in such matters, he just silently listens beside him. He is not cold-blooded. But donating money to the nursing home is not something he needs to do. After finalizing the donation, Lin Yuner and Su Lin followed Li Zhuqing to visit the elderly. It was during this process that Su Lin saw those grandparents and welcomed Lin Yuner very much. He leaned against the door frame and looked at Lin Yuner, who was smiling all over the room, feeling a little emotional in his heart. Since debut, I have been able to maintain a kind heart. This is indeed a person worthy of respect. With this in mind, Su Lin saw Lin Yuner waving at him, and without hesitation, he walked in with a smile. Say hello to the elderly while bowing beside them. Full score etiquette. After Su Lin arrived at Lin Yuner's side, before he could sit down, he heard her say, "Grandma Jean, Grandpa Li, this is what I called Su Lin's classmate. He is already starting to make a movie." "Really? Make a movie? This child looks kind and has a really nice face." "Yeah, he looks really good. No wonder Will Shibi praised him. He will definitely become a great director in the future." Sugar-coated shells hit, and Su Lin quickly waved his hand to deny it. "My grandparents are overpraised, I'm just an ordinary student." "OMO, you're still very humble." "Ha ha ha." Covering her mouth and chuckling lightly, Lin Yuner smiled and looked at Su Lin. The room was filled with laughter, and this time Su Lin didn't deny it anymore. Instead, he nodded with a smile. He didn't care, as long as the old man was happy. The arrival of young people has made the nursing home more lively, and laughter is also playing out in the nursing home. I had lunch with the elderly. The two are preparing to leave. Walking on the way to the nursing home, Lin Yuner looked at the boy walking beside her and asked with a smile. "Are you tired? We still have to go to the welfare home." End of this chapter.